tonight on DC News Now at 9. Universities faced with growing unrest and tough decisions as student protests over the war in Gaza shows no signs of slowing down. Across the country, tense standoffs with police ending with pepper spray, tear gas, and arrests. But in D.C., a different kind of approach. Why GW's campus is not seeing the same police response.
Hi, everyone. Tracking a few stray storms and a cool down. I have your full forecast coming up.
Flight feud, a plan to bring additional round trips to DCA, getting closer to reality. Why local lawmakers are continuing to push back. And an end of an era. Crystal City losing underground shops that have been around for decades. What we know about the closing timeline.
You're watching the station covering all of the DMV. This is DC News Now.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for DC News Now at 9 o'clock. I'm Chris Flanagan. Tonight, protests continue at university campuses all across the country, including here at George Washington University. The protests and encampment now in day 6. The students continue to demand a ceasefire in Gaza and the university to divest from companies that support and fund the Israel-Hamas war. DC News Now's Marielle Carbone live on campus monitoring the situation for us. And Marielle, while things are getting a little crazy in other campuses across the country, it's been relatively quiet here at Foggy Bottom.
Yeah, Chris, it really has, except I want to show you one area here behind us, all of this fencing piled up in the middle of University Yard. This was once blocking off the area, but earlier this week, protesters tossing them into the middle of the yard to gain access back out here and to put up more tents. Aside from that, though, there hasn't been any major clashes between police and protesters. That is despite congressional leaders putting on the pressure. For days now, this pro-Palestine demonstration at George Washington University has persisted. Since the beginning, students here telling us they're committed to the cause, a free Gaza and divestment from the university. You're willing to get arrested, potentially suspended, to stay out here?
100%.
That hasn't happened here yet, despite that happening on other college campuses across the country. Forceful arrests made at the University of Texas, New York University, the University of North Carolina.
When you see a riot police intervening in a peaceful protest, that can be deeply chilling.
Grand Bureau is with Fire, a nonpartisan nonprofit that fights for freedom of speech on college campuses.
In certain circumstances, a law enforcement response may be warranted to preserve a physically safe environment on campus.
Here on GW's campus, DC police have remained in the background.
Police appear to be doing the right thing, standing by the rights of protesters to express themselves peacefully, and making sure that they're not escalating the situation needlessly.
Still, pressure is mounting from congressional leaders to remove protesters.
We have come to take our universities back.
Tuesday, House leaders James Comer and Virginia Fox sent this letter to D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and Police Chief Pamela Smith, stating if the District of Columbia and MPD refuse to exercise their authority to assist GW in securing the safety of its students and faculty, Congress will be obliged to exercise its legislative powers to do so. Back on campus, those in the encampment say they aren't going anywhere.
Everybody here is really motivated and angry.
And we have talked to students who say this encampment makes them feel unsafe and unwanted here, and they want to see this removed. Of course, we have reached out to the mayor's office, and she tells us that DC supports peaceful protests and that the city relies on MPD, its expertise, and its experience to know how and when it may need to intervene, if at all. Reporting live from GW's campus tonight, I'm Marielle Carbone, DC News Now.
All right, Marielle, that update, thank you. Meanwhile, campus protests at Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond also fueling the debate between free speech and public safety. Last night, pro-Palestine protesters clashed with officers in riot gear. Our sister station observed protesters throwing water bottles at officers. Now, VCU says police responded by deploying pepper spray to break up that crowd. Now, one protest organizer says she suffered multiple injuries, including a black eye during her encounter with police.
It went from everybody dancing in a circle and all of a sudden we get a little notification and word that police might be on their way. For the safety of everyone, we called it off, made an announcement for everybody to disperse.
18 people, including 6 students, were arrested and charged with unlawful assembly and trespassing during the police confrontation. You can see here, protesters set up wooden pallets and other makeshift barricades there. Now, VCU's president responding today saying, while our community cherishes the right to peaceful protest, setting up structures on our campus lawn violated our policy. He says VCU staff repeatedly asked protesters to comply, but the requests were not met. Well, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin weighing in as well, writing on X that law enforcement must protect Virginians. The governor says across the Commonwealth, we've seen student and significant non-student participants throw projectiles at law enforcement, violate the policies of our college and universities, obstruct and disrupt student life, and endanger public safety. My administration will continue to fully support campus, local and state law enforcement, and university leadership to keep our campuses safe. Well, Columbia University in New York City trying to navigate unrest on its campus here. School is threatening to expel student protesters who have taken over an administration building. They've barricaded entrances and are waving Palestinian flags on the building's roof. They're refusing to leave unless their list of demands, which include cutting ties with Israel, are met.
Students and community members are risking suspension and arrest to end the true state of emergency on campus, Columbia's complicity in the genocide in Gaza.
Well, the White House denouncing the building takeover at Columbia. The White House National Security Advisor says the president believes it is absolutely the wrong approach. And still to come at 9:30, some protests are being called out by lawmakers for anti-Semitism. We're looking at a new bill some Capitol Hill lawmakers are looking to pass and why it is stirring controversy tonight. All right, tracking weather now. Here's a sign that it's really starting to heat up. More boaters getting out on the water. So if you're boating east of Ocean City in the next few weeks, you'll need to use extra caution. That's because endangered whales have been spotted off the coast. Maryland officials are now extending a slow zone now through May 11th. Boaters will need to slow down to 10 knots or less in these areas in order to protect the whales. Today, a great day to be out on the water, but Chief Meteorologist Janessa Webb, right now we've got some showers in parts of our viewing area.
Yeah, they're not super bad. Really, these storms are not materializing due to the cloud coverage that we are seeing across the region. Let's talk about the only record that we broke today was out towards the Dulles area. Official highs coming in at 88 degrees, beating that old record of 86 set in 1974. And so really a very toasty day and the only record, but still very really warm air that's made its way across the region. Now we have this frontal boundary that is causing the rain flow. A few rumbles of thunder out towards Hover area into Frederick, Maryland. Right now it's very moderate to torrential bands of rain crossing over to that PA line. Warrenton as well, light showers, no lightning associated with that storm system. And then this has turned into more of a scattered situation about to make its way into Baltimore County. DC metro area remains on the dry side. We could see one burst of rain really overnight into early tomorrow morning, but no real big concerns. Temperatures are falling where that rain has currently come down. We're now into the lower 60s west of I-81, and then you still have toasty mild air from Anne Arundel County down towards southern Maryland. Tomorrow, folks, you're going to notice humidity is way down, and then a northeasterly wind is really going to allow for us to feel a lot cooler across the DMV. By 9 a.m., we are back into the 70s. We'll tap out at 81 to potentially 82 tomorrow afternoon. Very quiet conditions for the rest of the week. We'll look at that extended forecast coming up, Chris.
Okay, we'll see you then. Janessa, thanks. All new tonight, Virginia is joining several Republican states in challenging newly expanded protections for transgender students. One of President Biden's new Title IX rules says schools cannot stop transgender students from using restrooms that match their gender identities. The rules also include new safeguards for victims of sexual assault. A federal lawsuit, which Virginia is part of, argues the rules clash with state laws. Some of these laws restrict which bathrooms transgender students can use.
The fight for Title IX is not just a legal battle. It is a moral imperative to ensure that women's rights and opportunities remain protected. This is not a bill debated through Congress. This is yet again the Biden administration trying to do a radical reinterpretation through executive overreach.
Well, the rules are set to take effect in August. While the policies broadly protect against discrimination based on sex, they do not offer guidance around transgender athletics. The Education Department has promised a separate rule on that issue down the road. D.C.'s closest airport is now on the verge of adding more flights, but the controversial move is facing late pushback. Our Northern Virginia reporter Max Marcilla live tonight at Reagan National. And Max, it's Congress that's in control of this move, but our region's senators, they are strongly against it.
And this push started with some people hoping that as many as 28 flights could be coming here to Reagan National Airport. Negotiations happened, and eventually they worked their way down to the currently agreed upon proposal, which is 5 more arriving flights, 5 more departing flights. But even that, for some, is just a few too many.
Adding these additional flights will both cause, I believe, a safety challenge and increased delays.
A late plea from Virginia Senators Mark Warner and Tim Kaine. They say an agreement to bring more flights to National Airport is the wrong move. The senators say adding flights would only increase delays, and they say the FAA reports about 1 in 5 flights is delayed already.
Stop. Stop. Where's 2937? Stop.
And they're arguing the near collision of 2 airplanes on the runway earlier this month could become more common.
The main runway at DCA is the busiest runway in the United States.
I go through DCA all the time, and it's very flexible, accessible.
That's a key argument for more flights. Reagan National is DC's closest airport. Plus, there's a hope that more flights could mean lower prices, and that seems to have the support of Congress, though not the DMV's leaders. And earlier today, Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg testified in front of Congress. He was asked about this debate over whether or not to bring more flights to DCA, and he said that, in his opinion, the added flights would create more pressure. That was the verbiage he used. But he did say that Congress will tell the administration what to do, and the administration will do it. Reporting live from Reagan National, Max Marcilla, DC News Now.
We'll certainly see what happens, Max. Thanks. Meanwhile, it's the end of an era for Crystal City's Underground Mall. After nearly 5 decades, the remaining shops there will be closing. Property owner JBG Smith cites a changing retail landscape and the neighborhood's continued redevelopment. The closure of most businesses is slated for October 31st.
53 years, 53 years. I opened in 1972. The metro was not even running then, Metro came in about 4 to 5 months later on, after I opened in Crystal City. So we had a lot of customers, used to come here, but things different now.
Yeah, certainly end of an era. The property owners saying they're offering flexibility for tenants as they make the transition. In the meantime, he says they're still trying to figure out what to do with that space in the long term. Well, WMATA is addressing an issue that some iPhone users ran into this morning. With their mobile smart trip cards, customers reported adding funds to their wallet that never showed up. WMATA says they have resolved the issue. They say any charges will be reversed. Now, if it's not reflected in your bank account, you can contact WMATA directly.